Hi, my name is Dedi Meiri. I'm a professor in the Technion, and you're listening to Professionally Cannabis.
Where do they go, the smoke rings I blow each night?
Welcome back, listener. Quick introduction today because this is the second part of a two-parter. So if you're joining us without having listened to the first, reverse, beep, 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 go back and listen. And to those who want to get on with it, so welcome back for part two.
Where do they go, the smoke rings
When we met a few months back in London at the seminar, you spoke about a study that was conducted using cannabis-derived treatment with children that have autism. Might you be able to go a little bit into that?
Yes, so I think it's around 3 years ago. There was few kids in Israel that got cannabis to reduce seizures. They had epilepsy, and in Israel, kids that are resistant to other medicines are allowed to get cannabis with high CBD and low THC, usually ratio of 20 to 1. And we have 37% success with these kids to reduce the seizures. So 3 kids which had autism, but also epilepsy, or we call it epilepsy-like, got cannabis to reduce the seizures. The 3 kids came back to the physician after 1 month. For 1 kid, it worked quite well to reduce the seizures, for the other less, which is fit to the 37% success on epilepsy. But all the 3 families told the doctor, please don't take the cannabis from our child. Even though it didn't reduce the seizures, it's totally changed our life. The kids are less violent, they are sleeping better, they are eating better, they're much more happy. And they said it's literally changed these kids' life. Before we understand what's happened, we had 18 kids, 3 with a license and another 15 that are friends with them in WhatsApp and stuff like that. You know, these are communities. And they gave it to their friends, and their friends also told the effect. So actually the Minister of Health called for a meeting. I participated in this meeting. And he said, look, if it's helped these kids, we need to give them. If not, not. But I don't want to have illegal treatment for these kind of kids under my supervision. So he decided to start slowly with, in the beginning, 150 kids, and done under a Dr. Adi Haran, which is a neuropediatrician in one of the hospitals in Israel, that they started to give. So the idea was to give to autistic kids, which are very, very, very severe, and other medicine don't help them. And being severe, these kids was very violent to themselves and the surrounding, usually going with helmets and they had ties. Half of these kids was hospitalized, mental health. The family can't deal with them because they were very violent and not communicating. So these kids was very violent, usually without communication, at least half of them even not eye contact. These kids have a sleep problems, usually the average of 8.4 times waking up at night, and other parameters, anxiety and other parameters. And we started to treat these kids, or the physician started to treat the kids with the same cannabis that we gave to the epilepsy. So high CBD, low THC. So these kids are not stoned. It's not a sedation. And the result was phenomenal. It's the most strong, I would say, results I saw in cannabis. So we had around 87% success. And when I mean success, we saw a big reduction of violence of these kids, big reduction of anxiety, improving contact, eye contact, improving sleep. So it's used from 8.4 times the waking every night to 1.2. Think about a family that had a child 16 years old that every night, 16 years, waking up 8 times a night, screaming, shouting for 3-4 minutes, go back to sleep. 8 times a night, every night, you're waking up, hearing shouting, but you can't do anything. There is no point to approaching. You just need to wait. And now he's sleeping the whole night. Just this parameter can change the life of the family. But I'm talking about that the kids don't need the helmet, and then they're not violent anymore. They're eating better. They're sleeping better. They are more relaxed. And this is coming with improve of communication. I don't know if the improve of communication it's really neurologically, but maybe being less violent, sleeping better, eating better, also making place for better communication. But this is literally changing the family's life, not just these autistic kids, the family's life. If you're speaking with the fathers, with the brothers of these kids, you don't understand. It's amazing to hear these stories. And I'm talking about the real clinical trials with placebo and everything that we measured everything, and the result is literally phenomenal. When I'm saying we, it's not me, it's the physician. I just look for the cannabis and other things. I didn't do this clinical trial, but the results on that is phenomenal. So what's happened in Israel? We saw this result quite immediately, and the Minister of Health, or the responsible on cannabis on the Minister of Health, saw the results. So more and more open the gates. Actually, we think what you have to lose. These kids are not communicating, very violent, nothing is helping them. What is the risk? Usually, we're afraid to give kids cannabis because there are, we are saying maybe it can interfere with brain development. What these kids, they are not communicating, they are not talking, they are very violent. What are the risks here? So actually, the Minister of Health opened the gate, and more kids, autistic kids, started to get cannabis. So today we have more than 1,500 kids, autistic kids, that getting cannabis. So what's happened? There was a change there was difference in the strains. There was one strain that almost all the kids that took these strains show improvement, almost 100%. And then we look on other strains, going lower and lower in the success percentage. And there was 17 kids that took pure CBD, which didn't help at all. So what's happened when a child taking something, a strain from a company, didn't work? He's calling me, ask the physician, the community, hey, why it's helping the other child and not helping me? You're taking this strain, go to the other company, this is working better. So there was one company that more and more kids started to take the cannabis, and they actually ran out of the material. They didn't plan to have that amount of patients coming in that short range. And after 1.5 months, they ran out. They didn't have these strains anymore. But on the bottles, it just written high CBD strains, 20-1 ratio CBD to THC. So they said, okay, we have other strains with this amount. So they started to make extract from different strains. They were very honest. They told me and they told the parents, look, we ran out of this strain. We're now using other strain. Okay? But we all thought it's the same, right? The same CBD, THC, the same ratio, it will be fine. In 4 days, we have a crash of more than 40 kids that change the strain. They become very violent, even more violent than they were before. One child jumped on his mother and beat her in a way that she needed to go to hospital. One child get out of the window, jump out of the window when the window was closed, cut his body. I have a professor in the Technion, my colleague, that treated his son, 16 years old, which is an amazing result. He told me that in order to control his son had such a burst of violence, that in order to control his son, he and his other son try to control, they break these autistic kids' both hands. So you understand which, in 4 days, another call, another child. So we understand that there is different. We got the other strain, we catalog it, we look on the cannabinoid, we understand that the other cannabinoids are very, very different. So we went to the other strain, we look on the cannabinoids, and we follow these kids to a different company that have a strain that's similar, and they become relaxed again and less violent and everything. And again, this is not a clinical trial, but it's like a clinical trial for me. These kids don't know what they're getting. This is autistic kids getting oil under the tongue, getting something for half a year, for a year that helped them a lot. Now you change it, but actually no one really understands that you change. The same things on the bottle they gave him. There is a big difference in the action or reaction of these kids. You change it again, and the action is good again. So this is an amazing, I think, again, understanding the complexity of the cannabis, looking on just CBD is not enough. How much it can affect life of patient and how much we need to learn.
Yes, so I think if we summarize our quick tour of your research, it becomes apparent that the current way that patients are accessing medical cannabis, where they get THC and CBD content on the bottle, maybe not even correctly labeled, is not going to be the way of the future. Now, I wonder, because this is professionally cannabis, what is the path for your research to translate into products for patients? How will it be that someone in the UK or Canada or the US who's currently buying a strain with a funny name like Orange Sorbet and he knows the THC and maybe some of the terpenes, how does your research with your very specific cannabinoid focus come to influence and inform their choices?
Okay, so can I answer like a politician with a different answer? So if you would ask me how I see the future, okay, in 3-5 years, I think there is two roads or two kinds of products that we will see on the shelf. And for explaining that, I want to tell about a different research that we did with Professor Elon Eisenberg, who is the head of the pain department in Rambam Hospital. So for 3 years, we follow up 2,800 pain patients. And we have a questionnaire in our lab that we follow up on patients for a few years. And the results are phenomenal from a few angles. Actually, almost all the patients that you ask telling you how it changed their life and how it's helped them. So how I'm collecting this data? In Israel, there is one major dispensary, one hospital, that actually the patient need to go there and to take the product. And they get a prescription. Israel is kind of social country. So if you get a prescription, you're actually not really paying for that. You're paying simple number, but you need to go and collect it kind of from a pharmacy. But in Israel, it wasn't a pharmacy. It was one hospital. There were one dispensary there. So I have two girls from my lab that sitting there questioning the patient there. And the patient is getting prescription for 1 month. So once a month, they need to come and collect the cannabis. And then every month, we follow up on them. Also, with the growers, I have girls that are calling the patient, questionnaire them. And all the results are phenomenal. Almost all the patients telling you how it changed their life, how amazing it is, how they suffer from pain, chronic pain, or from PTSD, and now they are going back to normal life. And these are real patients. These are not stoners. These are real patients. I'm meeting with patients that you don't believe. You know, a professor from other university that have an accident, and she's telling me how she started to take opioids, how it's ruined their life. She stopped working. She was miserable at home, and she changed more than 20 different medicines in the last years until she reached cannabis. It's changed her life. It's helped her a lot. She come back to work. And I can give more and more and more and more samples like that about patients. And you ask yourself, why are we even giving other medicines if this is working so well? But this is not the truth. We are not looking right when we're doing that. And why? So I have a team of bioinformatics in my lab. When one of the guys in my team came to me a few months ago and told me, Daddy, I want to publish a paper on cannabis and safety. I said, what do you mean? He said, cannabis is very safe. None of the patients describe that it's made them to feel very bad or any major harm. So I'm asking him, I said, so how many patients fill the questionnaire 5 times and disappear? Because they're filling every month and we're following them almost 3 years, right? So he looked at that and tell me 356. I said, do you know that all of them died? He said, no, Dedi, come on. I said, why not? He said, cannabis is not killing. I said, yeah, but they are filled 5 times and disappear. We don't know why they disappear, right? So actually we are looking on that in a very...
This sounds like survivorship bias, where you look at data only for those that have gone through the trial.
Exactly. You bias the data. So which are the patients that coming every month to take the cannabis? It's just the patient that took it, it's helped them, and they keep coming and taking, right? The patients that tried once and they didn't, they feel very bad, they're not coming back to take. And in cannabis, a lot of the patients first trying the cannabis, they will take it from their niece, from the neighbors, from whatever, and then if it's working, they will go to the physician and ask to prescribe it, because then you need the Minister of Health. It's a process in Israel. So actually, I realized that I'm looking just at the portion of the success, which I don't know how much is not successful with it. So we started a clinical trial saying, from the moment the physician decide to prescribe cannabis, we will start to follow the patient. We have followed for 3 years 2,800 pain patients. And in Israel, in order to be a pain patient and get cannabis, you need to be a chronic pain patient. They're treating a whole year with other medicines. And then if it's not helping, you can get cannabis. So these are very severe chronic pain patients that now the physician tell them, look, we tried this, we tried that, let's try cannabis. And from that moment, we're starting to follow up on them. And the results are very, very, very disappointing. Just 45% of the patients keep taking the cannabis. Just 45% of the patients say that the cannabis has really reduced the pain and helped them, which is surprising. Before that, I thought almost every patient that have pain would take it to reduce. And the answer is not, 45%. But I must say that 45% is a good portion for medicine. Usually medicine working less. But when you look at the pain parameters, it's reducing just 25% of the pain. So how we measure that? We ask the patient from 0 to 10, how much is painful? He said 8. And then he started to take the medicine, in that case, cannabis, and after a month, you said, how much is painful now? He said, now it's 6. So it reduced 25% in that case. So actually, if you summarize patient, the cannabis reduced just 25% of the pain, and believe we check every types of pain, accurate pain, long time pain, neuropathic pain, whatever. Elon Eisberg know his job, he did it very well. But actually, as a medicine, to consider medicine for pain, it's need to reduce more than 30% of the pain. So actually, cannabis won't pass any test of a real pain killer. So now I'm asking myself, how come that we have 18,000 patients in Israel that getting cannabis under prescription to reduce pain? And you hear amazing story from all of them. It's not make sense. But now if you started to look on all parameters, you see that it's a little bit reduce the pain, but also a little bit help with the sleep. Also a little bit improve the depression, like reduce the depression. It's also a little bit increase the appetite. It's a little bit decrease the anxiety. And altogether, it's a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and it's changed the quality of life of the patient. And if you're starting to look on more accurate measurement of how many other medicines the patient is taking, so we see that after 1 month, the patient stopped to take 80% of other medicines. 80%. And these patients usually coming with a whole breakfast of medicines, 15 different pills.
A real
one
buffet.
For depression, one for sugar in the blood, one for other. These are severe patients. They are stopped taking 80% of other medicine, which is crazy. And if you look on painkillers, just taking painkillers. So you ask yourself, oh, just a moment. I don't understand. If it still hurts, why they're stopping to take it? Why? Because it's improved the quality of life. All of them. I will give you one sample of one patient that I'm familiar with his story. This is a 28 years old patient that have a very severe neuropathic pain in his back. He had an accident. After that, he stopped suffering. He's a computer scientist, so he couldn't keep working. He left his job, started to go back to live with his parents, live in the basement. He have a depression, almost not getting out of his room. Hear music extremely loudly because he said that it's helped him not to think about the pain. Started to take opioids, whatever, was treated with Elon for a whole year. Nothing helped him. We started to give him cannabis. He started to sleep a little bit better, to eat a little bit better, a little bit reduce the pain, not much, but started to stop take the depression medicine. Everything started to be better. Get back to work, started to work again, full-time job, had more money because he started to work, started to get out with his friends, met a girl in the bar, moved to live with her, and now is before getting married. And this is the difference between a patient that was lying in his bed, almost not moving from his bed, to a person, full-time job, live with his girlfriend, very happy. This is, we called it, there is a parameter that's called catastrophism. How you look on your pain. What do you think about your pain? How do you think you're miserable? And if we look on these parameters, the cannabis is doing a huge change. So why I'm telling all this story? Because on that case, improving quality of life, and it's not just on pain patients, is cancer patient that getting chemotherapy and getting cannabis to improve the quality of life. It's PTSD patient, it's autistic patient. All these patients, actually the cannabis improving small portion, but a lot of parameters. Sleep, appetite, pain, depression, anxiety, all of these small portion, you're getting a full ball. And this, the cannabis is doing very well. But on this one, it will be very difficult for us, the scientists, to put the finger and say, this is what cannabis is doing. This is the compound that's doing that. Probably we won't be able to do it. And what I see that the cannabis is breaking walls, not just the cannabis is breaking walls as how we look on medicines. When I did my PhD and even in my postdoc and I work in a hospital, we usually look, we call it one compound, single target. So usually medicines contain one compound that have one target. And it's very accurate. What the cannabis is bringing, it's not anymore one compound, one target. It's a lot of compounds, a lot of targets, they're doing a lot of things. It's kind of holistic treatment. But we understand that in order to treat a patient, it's not just to reduce his pain, it's to do many things together. Even if every one of them is a small portion, you're getting a big picture in the end. And the cannabis is breaking walls here. It's open the physician and all the people that treat patients. It's opened the mind for new types of medicine, which is much more complicated, much more, I will say, less accurate. So if I'm coming back to the question, how I see cannabis in few years, I think I will see cannabis that in one hand, one type of product which is more holistic, whole extract, they're treating a lot of small things, a lot of illness, mostly for quality of life. This will be more stable, that you buy the same products, better labeled, better, growing better ways. Probably the price will be more or less, but it will be on the holistic side. On the other hand, you will have medicines that is treating illness, which is much more accurate. These three compounds for treating leukemia with this mutation. These three compounds for reducing epilepsy in child. This would be more accurate. So I think we will have two types of medicine that's coming from cannabis. Holistic one, whole extract, and very accurate.
And moving from medically prescribed products to health and wellness products that people are able to buy in a number of different countries around the world that use cannabinoids. Well, CBD is very much the front runner in commercialized cannabinoids, and it's been very much rolled out through the health and wellness market, taking center stage. It seems now that more and more industry players are starting to get excited about CBG amongst other cannabinoids, which could be the next cannabinoid to be quote-unquote marketed to consumers. What is it about this cannabinoid that people are getting so excited about? And, for your 2 cents, which others do you believe might follow suit in being rolled out in the health and wellness market and commercialized, in addition to medical application?
So I think most of the cannabinoids are potent and active and can affect things, and CBG for sure is also potent. We don't know the effect. We don't know if it's good or bad. Everything that you change the balance in your body, can have a good effect or bad effect. The reason CBG is the new kid in town, it's because we have now strains that produce a lot of CBG. I'm familiar with strains. I have in my lab a strain that have 17% CBG, almost zero CBD, and almost zero THC. So if you're taking these strains and you need to produce CBG, you can have high amounts and have it. And this is the reason it is the next kid in town, because economically you can produce it from the plant in high level. But I don't think it's more important than CBC or CBDV or THCV or 375B or other cannabinoids. It's just the portion of them in the plant. This is my opinion. Also, CBG is the precursor for other cannabinoids. So if you're taking CBG and you put THC synthase, you will get THC. If you put CBC synthase, you will get CBC. So CBG, it's kind of an upstream product. You can produce other products from them. So this is another reason why CBG is important. And I'm not underestimate CBG. I'm working here in my lab a lot with CBG, and it's very potent for many things. But I don't think it's more important than the other cannabinoids. Just now there is the ability to have it as a product in high levels and high amounts and not very expensive. I think this is the reason it's getting this, more and more popular.
So to look at the other side of the coin then, are there cannabinoids that you've come across in your research which you think have extreme potential, but due to the plant's biomechanics aren't very available in the strains you have at hand?
Oh, sure. I told you about one of them. We named it 3318. It's our name because when it's coming from the mass spec. But this is a very potent compound that we see in the leukemia and other effects that is very important. All the V family, the THCV, the CBDV, the CBCV are very important and potent. We know that the THCV is very psychoactive, like the THC in a different way. Cannabis users that using THCV strain with a high level of THCV, and there is 2 or 3 like that in the state, telling that you feel like you're taking hallucinogenic drugs, not like the regular feeling of the THC that usually make you calm and relax. It's a different feeling. And again, usually we say in research that every poison is also a medicine. So if it's so effective and affect our brain that way and very different way than the THC, it will be also very important in diseases and other things. But I can tell you about the CBDV that for sure it's very important for inflammation and other things. There are many cannabinoids which are effective and potent and important.
And are there any companies or research institutions, I'm not really sure who would step up to this, who are taking bits of your research and targeting those cannabinoids for new strains that they're cooking up?
Yeah. I collaborate with a lot of companies, a lot of scientists, a lot of people from the plant side trying to change the genetic, from the medicinal side trying to look for different angles. We're trying to help as much as we can around to elevate this field. First of all, ideologically, I think as fast as we can help patients to know better what to use and to increase the possibility that we keep the right strain to the right patient is very important. And I'm lucky in my life to be in that position. I'm enjoying very much my work and my science, but also to be able to feel that you're really helping this incredible feeling. And this is from that side, but also, economically and on the business side, I think if I will help as much as I can to other companies and elevate this field, it's a boomerang. It's coming back.
Well, it's nice when the benefit for humanity in knowledge comes along with commercial advantage. So I'd like to take it in perhaps a more personal or something we haven't talked about yet. But part of the perhaps pressure against cannabis as a medicine is the fact that it's used as a recreational drug. And right now there's quite a big noise about lots of other drugs that have been known primarily for their recreational effect moving into the medicinal world. So I'm talking here about psilocybin or MDMA, or I think perhaps even LSD has some therapeutic benefits. How do you feel about the conflict between recreational and medicinal in the eyes of the patient and the public?
So first of all, that's exactly what I meant when I said that cannabis is breaking walls and open minds to understand that we can use other plants or other drugs that consider complicate and out of the box to get in the box. And you gave very good examples like psilocybin and MDMA, which for years known also to help in PTSD and other diseases, but we're out of the fence, and now they are getting in slowly when the cannabis is opened these doors. And it's even sometimes the same people. I have a very good friend that 8 years ago opened clinics for cannabis to treat in Canada, and was part of one of the big companies and make his fortune, and they have a lot of knowledge, and now going to do the same thing with the things that you mentioned, saying it's actually the same road, I'm going to the next step. So it's people that coming from the cannabis field, sometimes taking the next step, and I think it's extremely important. I don't see a conflict with the medicinal and the recreational. A lot of drugs that we're using, and opioids is the major, sample for that, are used as a medicine, but also used recreational, legally or illegally. Alcohol is used as a medicinal for years for many things in the hospitals, but it's also recreationals, and I can go on and on with examples. I think we need to separate them. If something helps for the patient, it's our obligation, our duty to help the patient. This is humanity, if there is something that can help for the patient, and we're talking about the most severe patient, we're talking about cancer patient, PTSD, autistic kids, chronic pain patient. If we can help them in any way, this is our duty. And I don't care if this is called MDMA or psilocybin or cannabis or person. I don't care. As a physician, this is your duty. Now, in social way, we need to know if we want to take it also recreational or not. This is different aspect of that. But as a physician, as a scientist, this is our duty. And this is what we swear to do, that we will try to do our best to find a cure and to find help to this patient. So I think as a physician, as a government, as whatever, it doesn't matter if it's also used as recreational. We need to really focus if it really can help a patient. If it can help, we must find a way to give it.
And for our last question, and somewhat going full circle, we started speaking about cancer, and this question very much relates to that. We've touched upon the fact that there are many illnesses and disorders that are being researched using cannabinoid treatment. In the cancer sphere, there are many as well. You mentioned leukemia. There's also been lots of positive research that's been published around colon cancer. All of this sort of infers, at least sort of anecdotally, that perhaps we're not too far away before cannabis-based therapy will be clinically applied for some patients. To what extent do you think that's true? And I guess how far away do you think we are from really rolling out cannabinoid cancer treatment to patients?
And thinking very, very specific examples, we are very close, in other very far. So if I will take the leukemia example that I gave, we are starting clinical trials in patients in a few months, I guess 2 to 4 months, which will be in clinical trials in Israel. So we did all the preclinical, we proved in all preclinical ways, everything that I know to do, I did, and now it's going to clinical. And we need to understand that clinical trials in cannabis is very fast. So if I'm going not with purifying compound, if I'm going with the whole extract, I know what the compounds in the extract, I know the ratio with them, but I'm going with the whole extract. This is a medicine that the patient getting in Israel. We have in Israel 58,000 patients that getting cannabis. From them, 16,000 are cancer patients. So this leukemia patient already prescribed with cannabis. I just need to tell them, don't take Scooby-Doo, take Mickey Mouse, right? These are real names, unfortunately. So if I know to point it, I can start in Israel to get approval, and I'm doing that in a few cases. In 2 to 3 months, I can start clinical trials on this leukemia patient. And I guess in around 8 months to have answers if it's really helped the patient. And actually, as a cannabis whole plant, to have a product in 1 year. So this is how far from being a general product for specific types of cancers, to have a specific compounds, to purified compounds as a real medicine. This is a long road of few years, I guess. This is the FDA road. But to have product that is, after clinical trials with a proof that can help patient, I guess the first birds will be seen in a year or two. Again, I'm saying what I know and what coming from my hand and my lab. So I know that in a year or two we'll start to have things after clinical trial that is proven. I just hope that it will be success, I'm not sure that we will succeed. Moving between mice to people, it's a big gap always. If we were very similar to mice, we will look very different. And we have a joke that we cure all the diseases in mice. Now we need to move to humans. So if it will work and if it will be a success, we will start to see products in a year or two that will after clinical trials. So it's not so far.
Well, we certainly look forward to that. And thank you very much for joining us on Professionally Cannabis.
Thank you very much. This was my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me.
Where do they go, the smoke rings I blow each night?
Well, that was marvellous, wasn't it? So, listeners, as always, like, subscribe, share and comment. But in particular, I'd like to know if you found it helpful to have perhaps more of an academic bent on Professionally Cannabis. We haven't had any scientists before. I personally think it's great, but let's let the audience decide. So if you've got any views on that, do let us know. Otherwise, until next time, ta-ra.
Love, please take me above, take me with you.